Today we're going to be watching another Rob videos. Hi, hello, welcome everyone. Today we're going to be talking about English words nobody can explain. I really wonder what kind of words those might be. I stumbled over this video while scrolling through YouTube and I immediately stopped when I saw Rob's face because I really like his videos, and he is talking about the English words nobody can explain. I don't know what that means, to be honest. So without further ado, let's jump into the video and see what this is all about.
The bird boy's big dog puzzled the girl's donkey. That is perhaps the most mysterious sentence ever uttered in the English language. Why? Because each of these words has an origin that nobody can explain. How can we still be in the dark about words as simple as big and boy? Let's find out in another RobWords. Okay, let's get straight into it. Our first mystery word is
I'm confused.
Dog. Say hello.
Oh,
This isn't actually my dog.
you're such a cutie.
Go online and look up where the word dog came from, and you'll find this: of unknown origin. That's because dog seems to spring like a spaniel into English just out of nowhere. The story with most English words is that we can either trace them back to another language from which we borrowed them, or it has related words in some of English's sister languages, and therefore it comes from some ancient ancestor of English. But not with dog. English is part of the Germanic language family. Those are languages that formed in Northern Europe from a common ancestral language known as Proto-Germanic. Other members of the household include German, Dutch, and the Scandinavian languages. But look at all of their words for dog. They're all relatives of our word hound. Meanwhile, the other usual suspects for words borrowed into English, Latin and its descendant French, use these C words, canis and chien, to refer to man's best friend. English is the only language using the word dog or anything that looks like it. Oh, is a doggy woggy?
That's weird. Another dog.
Did you hear me say the word dog?
Oh.
Hello. While Outdoor Rob just deals with that adorable interruption, I just want to mention something, and that is that there was actually one language that did have a word very similar to dog that meant dog. It was the sadly now extinct Australian Aboriginal language of Mbarbaram. Its word was so similar to dog that the first Western linguists to encounter it thought there'd been a miscommunication. But no. It was true. This sometimes just happens. Two cultures, in this case, either sides of the planet, just happen upon the same sound to represent the same thing. In this case, the dog. It was purely coincidence. It's not coincidence that there are, by the way, in some modern languages, words very similar to dog, usually to describe specific breeds of dog. But that's because they've borrowed the English word.
Oh,
the English word dog is still unique, as I've described. Anyway,
I had no idea.
A couple of hunds.
Yeah. Bye.
Where were we? So how did we get the word dog? Well, that is where the mystery kicks in. You see, at the end of the Old English period, when the Anglo-Saxons were around, about 1,000 years ago, the generic word for all doggy-woggies was Hund,
Oh my gosh, this is exactly the same word that we use in Germany. Hund. Hund is a dog. Oh, okay. I mean, that's no surprise, not such a big surprise, because I've heard of that before, that the English language 1,000 years ago was closer to German than anything else. However, it's really cool seeing those kinds of examples over and over again. I love that. Hund. Yeah, of course. Hund. Dog.
Cursor to our modern word, hound. So
it
was in line with all of the other Germanic languages. However, then William the Conqueror invades England in 1066, and the English language goes to ground, with Willie's Norman French now the most powerful language in the land. For the next 200 or 300 years, England is ruled in French. But then when that's over, the English that re-emerges from the darkness, which we call Middle English, has a new word for our four-legged friends. They're now called dogs. Look at this, written in 1340. He is likened to the fell dog that bite and bebecketh all those that he may.
He can read that. I mean, it shouldn't come as a surprise to me that he can read that. This word looks like our German also. also. However, we do have a word in German that's also, which if you were to translate it into English, it would mean like as well as or therefore, for example. I guess that's close to it. And the only letter that's inserted into this word that's different is the U. The rest of the word is exactly like the German one. He is an likened to P. Fel Doggy. Doggy. We do have a breed called Dogge in German as well. Like he just said, this is a German Dogge, Deutsche Dogge. It's this kind of breed. Oh, that's such a cute dog. So we still use the word nowadays in German, but it describes a certain breed of dog. Also, this P letter, which looks like a P, is everywhere. Wow, it's almost in every single word here. Afterward. That's interesting as well. Not afterwards, but afterward. Goddelingus. Het is Huane. I try to see if I can see other words that resemble. Oh, accursed of God in hot water. Is that in hot water? And pet is pet, I suppose. So that's what I'm getting. Okay, but let's listen to that again because Rob can really, really read it. And that's so cool.
40. He is likened to the fell dog that bite and bebecketh all those that he may. All those P/B letters, by the way.
Oh, okay. So what does that mean? It's likely that he will bite and bark at every person that he will meet. Is that what that says?
An old letter called Thorn that did the job that TH does now. It is a letter that I have regularly advocated that we bring
Oh,
back.
true.
In fact,
I've seen that before in his videos. Now that he has put it on the
Hardcore Thorn
screen.
t-shirt available in the RobWords shop.
Really?
Get on board.
Hardcore
Yes, I'm wearing 2 t-shirts because it's really cold.
I wish.
So anyway, the word
I
dog
wish.
has come from nowhere to become top dog, replacing hound as our main word for a canine. But what the heck has happened since Old English? Well, nobody knows, but what we do know is that it was not an isolated incident, because the same curious tale can also be told about the words frog, hog, pig, and stag, each of which appear to spontaneously leap into our language at around this time. Amazing, right?
Yeah.
And just baffling. However, there is something going on with all of these words, isn't there?
Yeah, all of them do have a G as the last letter and a vowel as the second last letter. And also, they're all really short and have just one syllable. So they have more than just one thing in common.
Seem like they belong together, don't they?
Yeah.
And that might well be the key to how they came about. These words all have 2 things in common. 1,
No, 3.
they're names for animals, aren't they? Obviously.
Oh, true.
And 2,
so 4 things.
they all end with a G. Well, on that second point, just have a look at their Middle English forms. The pattern there becomes even more stark. And actually, there's also a third characteristic that these words share, and that's that they each came to replace, in some or all circumstances, an existing word for those animals from Old English. Dog replaced hund, as we've discussed. Hog, and especially pig, displaced the Old English equivalent of swine, swine. Stag.
Swine. In German, it's Schwein. It's almost still the same. Schwein. Also such a cutie. Oh, I'd love to just cuddle every single one of those animals.
Equivalent of swine, swine. Stag became an alternative to the Old English
that's
short, an early form of heart. And frog,
Hirsch
well, that completely
would
replaced the
English.
Old English word for the
Frosch.
ribbety amphibian, which was frosch. Now, that
Frosch.
last example.
Frosch is the German word. This is so cool. I love that. I'm way more excited about words than I probably should be. I'm sorry, but this is just so cool.
Is potentially the most significant when we consider what might have happened with all of these words. What experts believe may have occurred is that all of these words started out as cute alternatives to the species that they now represent, pet names if you like.
Oh,
Perhaps the
okay.
Anglo-Saxons who spoke Old English were in the habit of coming up with slangy little words for their animals like we do with bunny and doggy and birdie, except their cutesy names ended with this g sound. Hence frosh became frogger and these other g words developed too.
Pika.
What backs this up is what I mentioned earlier, the fact that these words don't appear in Old English, not in the written record anyway, but they are in written Middle English. If these were just nicknames, they wouldn't have been considered proper in written Old English, which was mainly the preserve of religious scribes, so they'd have been left out, whereas Middle English writing just better reflects the way that people were actually speaking. What's more, evidence that they were in use in everyday talk even before they start appearing in written Middle English texts lies in the fact that these terms crop up in the names of people and places. Documents from the 12th and 13th centuries include fellas called Wilfric Pig, Wilhelmo Hog,
Oh,
Roger le Dog, and
those are really cool
William the Frog.
names. William the Frog.
I'm not kidding. And as far as places, you also had Dogworth, now Dogsworthy in Devon, it's still there, and
Oh.
Pigwood, which is now called Pickford in Sussex. Those are all from before we see these words written down in Middle English texts. So that suggests that, they are in use, because they're not just inventing these words for place names. But unlike with frog, the earlier forms that spawned hog, pig, stag, and dog died with the people who used them, who were presumably illiterate anyway. So we are never likely to know what those forms were. That is why dog, alongside all these others, is one of the most mysterious words in our language. By the way, I don't know if you saw that scientists just announced they got a step closer to solving another dog mystery, namely when they started to take on their distinctive shapes and become distinct from wolves. Scientists analysed over 600 canine craniums from the past 50 millennia and concluded that dogs started to take on their own shape around 11,000
What?
years ago. Wow.
That
And thanks to
long
Ground News,
ago?
who sponsored this video, I can get the full,
Oh,
amazing story. Ground News is a website and app that provides you with all the information you need to understand the news, such as information on where an outlet's biases lie and how reliable it
I
is.
got Ground News
On this
as
story
well.
alone, it brings together over 30 articles from
Really
around
like
the
it.
world, allowing us to compare the coverage. It tells
Very,
us
very
if a source is
good
known
placement.
to have a political bias, and most importantly, how trustworthy the source is. For example, the publication Science is marked as very high factuality, meaning I know I can go to that article and rely on what it has to say. I've been working with and using Ground News for a while now because I like what they do. I think it's never been more important to understand who your news sources are and whether they can be trusted.
100%.
Ground News gives you all the tools to do that. If you want to get access to it, go to ground.news.
Also, I do have the free
RobWords,
version.
or use my special QR code to get
Which is
40%
enough for me.
off the Vantage plan, which is what I have, and it works out at around $5 a month or whatever your local currency is. I say, give it a go. Let's get back to exploring some of the great mysteries of the English language. The next word whose origins have baffled etymologists is big. I mean, it's big.
Oh,
The word big.
it
Like
is
with dog,
big. Okay.
look at the words for big from around Europe and you don't find
Oh.
anything else like it.
ISO, store, groß. Yeah. Although it's written in a different way nowadays. It's written with a sharp S, not with two S's. Because if it were to be written with two S's, it would be pronounced gross, and we pronounce it groß. This is the way we write it, groß. What are these pictures, by the way? What the heck? I'm just looking up a word. At duden.de, which is a very official website in order to find out how words are written. Okay, whatever. Groß is written this way. It was written that way 40 years ago, along those lines. Grand. Yeah, that's French. Grande, Italiano. Sì. Megalos. Mare. So many different words. And also veliki, veliki. Never heard those before. Duzi. That sounds so cute. Duzi. Duzi. Doesn't sound big at all. Duzi sounds small and cute.
Neighbouring languages are using words related to grand, great, or gross. nowhere near the English oddity that is the word big. And again, like dog, the word appears out of nowhere in Middle English. Its meaning was slightly different from today. It could mean having great strength as well as having great size. Here's our old pal Geoffrey Chaucer using it in the 14th century in the prologue to his Canterbury Tales. Full big he was of brawn and also of bones. The eke there means also. It also appears in this amazing manuscript of the Death of King Arthur by Sir Thomas Malory from around 1470. It says, within 3 or 4 dates, Sir Lancelot waxed big and light. Waxed means grew. Lancelot grew big. The folk at Oxford say the word was mostly found in sources from the
squirrel.
north of England, suggesting it was a dialect word that eventually caught on everywhere.
Like a cat.
But how the
Something's
northerners
running.
came to start using it is unknown. Norwegian has a word, bugger, which I've definitely mispronounced. It can't be pronounced like that, surely. Anyway,
I don't think
and
so.
it means a mighty man. So it's a noun, not an adjective, but it seems like it should be related to that word big, right, which can mean mighty. But whether we borrowed that word from the Scandinavian languages and it became big, or whether that word developed from the same source is unclear. Anyway, eventually big would itself expand to become our main word for something of substantial scale, our go-to counterpart for little or small. So now, I invite you to wonder, what word did it replace? Well, it's a word that we still use now, but only in a niched down way. Old English had the word Mitchell, or, depending on your dialect, Muchel, the ancestor of our word much. And that was the word for big. But anyway, we've just discovered that Clifford the Big Red Dog is a big red beacon of English's eccentricities. But there is another towering figure from popular culture who also stands testament to our language's greatest mysteries.
Hi everybody, it's my bird. Oh,
that's right, my oversized avian friend, because after dog and big, we need to talk about bird third. The first thing to point out about the word bird is...
What a great rhyme.
We're getting it wrong. It should be brid. Look at all of these early versions of the word. It's brid. And now I mention it, we're making the same mistake with third. It always used to be thrid, which makes a lot more sense, doesn't it?
In German, we do have a completely different word to the word bird, because in German it's called Vogel, which has nothing to do with it whatsoever. However, third, we call Dritte. And Dritte is exactly like the stuff he's showing over here, where the R comes first and then the I. Dritte. So again, very close to German.
From the word three, not from vier. Both bird and third have gone through the same process called metathesis, a fancy word for when letters swap places. But the most interesting thing about the word brid is not how it was spelt, it's what it meant. The word has no corresponding form in any other Germanic languages and appears spontaneously during the Old English period. However, it didn't...
Wow, those were almost all the same. Vogel, Fagel, Vogel, 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 and then bird. So this is even more obvious than the dog one before, because this is like all of them sounded the same. There is just a U or an A instead of the O, but the rest of the word is exactly the same.
English period. However, it didn't mean just any feathered thingy with wings like it does today. It meant specifically a baby bird. Check out this quotation from over 1,000 years ago. So it's in Old English. Oft se jo brodia hen, to sprat hure födera, and the bridas gewurmeth.
I don't
in
understand
modern
any
English,
of that.
it says, often the brooding hen spreads her feathers and warms the birds, the bridas. But it's not referring to just any old birds. It's referring to the hen's chicks. Bridas are little birds. Some reckon another word in that quotation may hold the key to where the word bird came from, brodia or brooding. Perhaps bird comes from the same source as our words brood and breed. It would certainly explain
That
the
makes
spelling with the
sense.
R first, wouldn't it? To my mind,
Yeah.
that theory is also backed up by the fact that the word bird was also sometimes used to refer to the young of other species. Check out this quotation from as recently as 1500. A serpent had made his nest and brought forth his briddies there. So in this
Mm.
example, briddies or birds are snake babies. Note that those also come out of eggs though, don't they? But there is no
Sure.
certainty behind the idea that birds were originally broods, with etymologists saying that the difference in vowel sounds there prevents it from being, a slam dunk. All we know is that the word bird took flight and soared to such heights that it replaced our old generic word for a bird, which was Vogel, a word
Vogel.
closely related to the
Vogel.
modern German and Dutch words for bird, and which remains in the English language as the more specific term, fowl. Right, boys and girls, we're going to get into the mind-bending mysteries behind the words boy and girl in a sec, but first, we're not done with animals, because are the etymological dead ends limited to birds, dogs, pigs and hogs? You bet your ass they aren't. The word donkey is another surprising entry on the list of
Donkey.
words of unknown origins. It first turns up in a dictionary of words gleaned from the streets and dockyards of 18th century London, the notorious and quite brilliant Classical Dictionary of the Vulgar Tongue by
What?
Francis Gross. In there was the first appearance in
I'm sorry, what? A classical dictionary of the vulgar tongue. Abbess or Lady Abbess, a bawd, the mistress of a brothel. Abel Wackett's blows given on the palm of the hand with a twisted handkerchief instead of a ferula, a jocular punishment among femen. Sometimes play at cards for Wackets, the fuffering as many strokes as he has lost games. Was that at least a little similar to what it actually says?
quite brilliant Classical Dictionary of the Vulgar Tongue by Francis Gross. In there was the first appearance in print of the word donkey, defined as donkey or donkey dick. Dick is short for Richard, a he or jackass. Gross then explains that the word perhaps comes from the animal's don-like gravity, but modern etymologists aren't convinced. Their best guess is that the word started out as a cute form of the name Duncan and was donkey, and that
Okay.
Gross only spelt it the way he spelt it to reflect the spelling of
Mm.
monkey. Now that theory makes sense because you have a rich history
it
of
does.
naming these helpful companions after fellas. You not only have the jack ass and the donkey dick, stop it, but they've also been known as Neddies in the past as well, which comes from the name Edward. But like I say, that's just a best guess as to its origins. It's amazing that we don't know, given that it has become our main word for the animal that we, for over a millennium, just called an ass. Posterior postscript. The words ass meaning donkey and ass meaning bottom are not related. In Old English, the cute little equid was
English
known
is
as
such a
an
weird
assa,
language.
whereas your butt cheeks were your ass. That word would become arse, and through a much, much later regional variation in pronunciation, ass. So we Brits aren't just being fancy when we say arse. Arse predates your ass by about 1,000 years.
Oh, I didn't
Now,
know
oh
that.
boy, are you going to like our next etymological mystery.
He's so excited. I
It's the
love
word
it.
boy.
Oh.
When boy first appears in the written record, it means a servant. It first crops up in around 1300, so again, the Middle English period after William the Conqueror and his pals have had their way with the English language. Here's a slightly later usage from a letter written in 1480, but it shows that older meaning still being used. It is so that I do send Harry my boy to wait upon my brother this Christmas. The boy in question is his servant, not.
This is such an interesting text. Also, this word, it's just, there is no vowel in it. And also in this word, there are no vowels. Where are the vowels? And this is just a Y. To send Harry my boy to wait upon my brother. Yeah. This Christmas. What in the complicated word is this? Worship. Oh, worshipful. I can read that. I can read that. But at first glance, this word just looks like an abomination. I gotta be honest here. Worshipful 1480. Right well below it, sir. I recommend me heartily. What? Wunto? Wunto? Jou? Placeth jou to understand? That I how ship it at London. I love butchering these texts. I love trying to read them, and I'm always convinced that I can because I'm clever, but every single time I try, I fail horribly. He can do it so much better than me.
Not his son. By about the mid-1400s, the word has also started to crop up, meaning a male child, like it does to us today. Here it is in the Coverdale Bible, being juxtaposed with damsels. And of course, that is the meaning that has endured. But none of this answers the question as to where the word boy came from. Because again, boy sticks out like a sore thumb.
Buachail? Wait, what? How can this be such a completely different word in Ireland? I don't know if this means Northern Ireland or the Republic of Ireland, it just shows Ireland as a whole, to the UK. I had no idea that they had completely different terms for things. Maybe I've got to look deeper into that. I mean, yes, accents, even in German, sometimes do have different words. It's not just the accent, but words change completely. But this is so different. It's not even similar. The only thing that's similar to boy is that it starts with a B, but that's it. Okay, let's look at those. Chico, yeah, I know that. What? Oh, the French. I don't know French. Garçon? I mean, it sounded French. Jungen, Junge, the German one. Ragazzo, Italiano. Klapek, Dreng, Poike. Okay.
Among the other European words for a young fella.
I've come to a French fort to explain this next bit because there are two old French words that might have given us the word boy. The first one is a verb, embrouiller, which meant to chain up, to put in fetters, which fits well with that earlier meaning of boy, doesn't it, of a servant. It's possible that in French-speaking England there was a variant of that, which was embrouiller, and that over time the got dropped and you just got boyer. So someone who had been put in fetters would be boyer. And in turn, in English mouths, that becomes boy. That's theory number one. Theory number two surrounds this other old French word, which was boyasse, which meant a female servant. Now that's significant because the word boy traditionally always meant a male servant, even when it meant a servant. So how could that word boyasse, meaning a female servant, get to the word boy, meaning a male servant? Well, the theory is that English speakers thought the ass at the end of boyasse was a feminine suffix, like the s at the end of a lot of other French words. And so they manufactured a male version of that word.
They just took away the
get
ass.
from boyasse to the male version, boy. And that
makes
boy.
sense, yeah.
Two possible explanations,
I think
but
I like
no
theory
written
2 a
evidence
little more.
of either. Annoying. Hence, boy is on our list of words of origins unknown. But before you accuse the lads of letting the side down, let's take a look at the equally indefinable origin of the word girl. When girl first crops up at around the same time as boy, it just means a child, irrespective of gender. This is the first known written usage of the word from a poem written in around 1300. The admiral's daughter was in the street there out, and a very great crowd of girls and men came her or
I'm sorry. I'm gonna rewind in a second so we can hear that whole sentence again. But we just gotta talk about these two dots in the middle of this sentence, the colon. If they are meant to be colons, or I don't know, maybe they do have a different meaning in this sentence because they're in the middle of the sentence and it doesn't make sense. I've never seen that before. That must have been a certain time span, like 1300s, where they did that. But why did they do that? Does any one of you know why they did that? Does it have, I mean, it must have a meaning. Nowadays, we only use it when we write about a person saying something, and the moment they start speaking in a book, we use those to indicate, okay, this is what the person says. We also use these ones, but it's also always a colon, and then those, don't know what they're called right now, I'm sorry. But in the middle of a sentence like that, it doesn't really make sense, does it? Is it like a longer comma? And also there's a semicolon at the end of the sentence instead of a full stop. But here's a full stop. And also there are these signs. I am completely thrown by this whole way to form a sentence and to write it down. And I just feel like I want to know what this is all about. Is there a video out there that I could watch? Maybe from Rob videos where he explains what this is all about. Also, this letter over here, is it a G or is it a 3? Questions over questions.
Daughter was in the streets there out, and a very great crowd of girls and men came her all about. Girls here doesn't mean young ladies, it just means children. The Admiral's daughter is being mobbed by kiddies and fellas alike. Around this time, if you wanted to refer to a female child, you would say gay girl, and a boy would be a knave girl.
Knabe!
The word girl then niched down to the meaning...
What? No way! Knabe is the German, an old German word that was used like, I don't know, 50 years ago or 100 years ago. Like my grandmother probably used it. It's still used nowadays, not in the everyday talk though, for boy. When, for example, if you read a fairy tale from the Brothers Grimm, I think they talk about a Knabe instead of a boy. It's an old German word for boy. So it was like boy, girl. What? That's really cool. Like boy, child back then. I get it, but it's so funny. Language is such an interesting topic. Every single time I'm just baffled by how it came to be. We just use it nowadays. We don't even think about the origins, how it even happened, that the language that we speak today like wasn't always like this.
The word girl then niched down to the meaning that it has now, perhaps even in tandem with the settling of boy as its counterpart. But where did girl come from? Well, you know the deal by now. Nobody knows. One theory is that it's related to the Low German Göre, which can mean boy or girl. But the
What? I'm learning so much about my old language today because Göre is a word that's still being used nowadays. I mean, it was more used by the generation of my parents and the generation of my grandparents, but still nowadays, I think in northern Germany, more than southern Germany, a girl that is not behaving in a good way, a girl that's not listening to authority or to their parents and is doing whatever she wants to do, like a little girl that's just not listening, is called a Göre, still nowadays in German. Eine kleine Göre, little Göre, which means it's just a child, a little girl that's not behaving in a way she should. So cool.
Can mean boy or girl, but the Oxford English Dictionary says that that theory encounters chronological difficulties.
Oh, it does.
So it discards it. A perhaps more promising theory is that it developed from the Old English word gerla. However, that didn't mean anything like young lady or child. It meant dress or apparel.
That's
However, a Yale
different.
historian and Old English buff called Fred C. Robinson once pointed out that it is common across European languages for people to take on the names of their clothing. He pointed out that the Spanish, Danish and English words for skirt have all come to mean woman to lesser and greater extent. I personally wouldn't use the English version unless I wanted to get a slap. The word brat, for example, is thought to have started out as a Celtic word for a pinafore, the sort that might be worn by a child. Hence, children became known as brats. So perhaps that same logic led children to be named after another garment, the Old English gurla. I like that theory. The problem is, however, that there's no evidence of the word making that leap in meaning. If it happened, it probably happened during English's wilderness years under the French-speaking monarchy. Right, we're almost done, but I want to leave you with one last word origin puzzle, and that's the origin of the word puzzle. Did you know that the idea of puzzling someone came before the idea of a thing called a puzzle? The verb
No, I didn't.
predates the noun. But how the verb came about, no one can be sure. There are two main theories. One is that it's from the Old English verb puzzlian, meaning to pick out. It has relatives in other Germanic languages meaning to fiddle or to busy oneself. So maybe to be puzzled originally meant something like unsure what to do with yourself. Or there's theory number two, which is that it's a derivative of the word pose, as in to pose a question. It does seem like a bit of a leap to go from pose to puzzle, doesn't it? But when you bear in mind that exactly the same leap has happened with the words nose and nuzzle, yes, they're related, it suddenly doesn't seem so far-fetched. So there you go. The bird boy's big dog puzzled the girl's donkey. Impress your friends or annoy an etymologist with that riddle riddled with mysterious words. If you've enjoyed this video, you'll also enjoy my wordy, nerdy newsletter, which you can sign up to at robwords.com/newsletter, or, as of this week, you can just go to Substack and find it there. I'll see you in whatever you choose to watch next, maybe this, and in the meantime, take care.
The astounding origin of wow. What? Okay. As always, a really entertaining but also educating video of RobWords. I didn't expect less of this, and I have learned a lot about my own language as well. Not only about English, but also about German. I just know RobWords videos never disappoint, like never ever. You always learn something in every single one of his videos. I hope you had fun watching this video together with me. I'll see you in the next one. Have a nice day. Bye.